Brought to you by 730 CKLG.
So I hear.
What do I want to talk about this week? Get a dog, they said. It'll make your life better, they said. Welcome to the living room, I America. It's hot in here. This is with the lights and the work. It's hot in here. 604-336-3896, 604-336-3896. You can call that number anytime and leave a lovely message or an unlovely message, whatever you want to do, but 336-3896, 604. This is the Left Coast Living Room, I America. Chapman, they said to get a dog. You know, the dog makes your life better. And all that jazz, and you know, ooh, without the dog, you wouldn't be the person. You know what? Fuck that. Having a dog is so stressful. I mean, I know there's a lot of joy in it, but good Lord, my dog's been sick for a month with pancreas stuff as she digs in a hole there and distracts while I'm trying to work. Don't get a dog unless you're mentally prepared, because I don't know if I was. We fostered a dog with my ex, Abby, and then, you know, when we decided to get a dog, we're like, okay, who's gonna take the dog? And I was like, I'm gonna take the dog. That's my dog. But I should have thought about it more, because they're so stressful, and I'm not the person that can handle stress. I have so much anxiety already. My dog has anxiety. The two of us, we're peas in a pod, but we're so anxious. It's really insane. It's quite insane. I'm super self-conscious about my neck area as well. That's why I keep twitching out and checking, and I just bumped the mic, so you probably heard that. Okay, today, what do we got on the show today? We're talking about why no one gives a fuck about homeless people. That's a thing. That's a thing. Unfortunately, that's a thing. The numbers are out, and the lack of outrage sort of proves it. And we're also going to talk about smells, mental health and smells. Not only what certain people smell with certain illnesses, but you know, a little bit of odor that comes off them, and I know I have odor issues sometimes, so we can talk about that. So that's on the show today, and it's going to be amazing. And there's no flipping allowed. Just hold on a sec, I promise. Just wait there, and don't get a dog unless you're ready. My God, my dog, I swear to God, it almost died, and I almost died. But I only have so much money to put into it too. Then there's that thing, and I feel like a dick. But it's just reality.
All right, one more time.
Where were you on the night of the crime?
I told you, I was on the phone most of the night talking to 8 different people. It's a party line. You call up and you say whatever you want.
You expect us to believe
That you can have your own party on the phone?
Yeah, and so can you guys.
All right, let's take him back to the cage.
Now, before you go, you're entitled to one phone call.
Hello? Who's on the line? Hi, Victoria. How you doing?
That's exactly what.
Hey, could you guys keep it down? I'm on the phone in here, all right?
Dealers in Coquitlam and Port Moody.
At Vancouver Break and Wheel, we offer
Las Vegas.
All right, so I said it, and I'm sorry, and it seems really mean, but why don't we care about homeless people?
There are 4 million homeless people in America. The average age being 9 years old, and I don't give a fuck! I don't care about fucking homeless people!
We really don't, for some reason. We have these opinions on how they got there and what needs to be done, and this is all based on absolutely nothing but opinion and some Cheetos that were had on the couch while you sat there and pondered, with no education on it. They're smelly. They don't fit the look that we think is the norm. Well, on behalf of all of them, fuck you. 507 people experiencing homelessness died in 2024. That's absolutely headline news. 2 kids under 19, children, died. Where's the moral outrage? Where's the panic? In 2020, 157 people died who were experiencing homelessness. That's a pretty big increase in dead bodies that no one is talking about. 350 more people, in fact, that no one is really making a big deal of. And I wonder, is it because of why? It's because of the drug poisoning crisis that the people are dying. But why is no one concerned with that many deaths? Is it because it's homeless people? Yeah, probably. Or is it because it's homeless men? 380 men experiencing homelessness, 125 women. Men are often forgotten when experiencing mental health struggles, which can lead to homelessness. Or is it because we have become so bloody numb to the piles of dead bodies that are surrounding us? There is a Reddit post, good old Reddit, titled, "I Hate Homeless People." Had a very anecdotal reasoning for their anger towards homeless people, which is what you get when most people oppose it. It's just anecdote. I'm going to say that 100 times. Like Vancouver councillor and sign master Pete Meisner on CBC Vancouver, who is once again opposed to life-saving OPS sites, but it feels really bad about it.
And, you know, I really regret that we're being put in this situation as a council and the city. We have been promised repeatedly by Vancouver Coastal Health that there would be fulsome engagement with council, with residents, with neighboring businesses around the location of this site. Again, this is being moved for the 4th time. And none of that has really occurred. There was some small engagement with a neighborhood liaison table. You know, I don't even know who's on that table. I didn't even know it was reconstituted. It was actually not meeting for a long time. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, the Wall Center Hotel across the street, one of the biggest hotels in the city, residents and small business owners, they had no idea that this lease had even been signed. And I've literally received tens of emails since yesterday from neighbors.
Tens of people. So possibly 100 people, but it could be 10. It's just a super underwhelming amount. Tens. I've received emails from tens of people. If it was hundreds, it might have more impact, but you're really pointing out the bare fucking minimum amount that could really oppose this other than 5s. 10's not a lot more. There's a bar and you're not even close if that's it. That's the weakest brag I've heard in quite a while. If thousands of people living there and tens of them complained, well, that's not a lot of Pete. That's not a lot of people. That's like Ralph Kaiser bragging he got 4,000 votes in the last election when Lucy Maloney got over 33,000. Like, what are we doing here? They're referring to the OPS site proposed for downtown, strongly opposed by no one with any knowledge on the topic. Just some people with their opinions, and you know what they say. People that share their opinions instead of science and fact in a life and death drug poisoning crisis are assholes. Also, any complaint about OPS sites is purely anecdotal and not science-based because the locations of the previous 3 or 4 sites, they actually reduce deaths. But who cares about facts, right? Ooh, something bad might happen. It might. And that's what we're doing here. We're reducing deaths. We're trying to stop death. But I guess it's spilling into people's business. Like Pete Meisner almost sounds like, in my opinion, he would prefer if people just shut up and die in an alley. And here he is again on CBC.
But Dr. Patricia Daly says this is the neighborhood where people are dying, second deadliest neighborhood in the city when it comes to overdose deaths, and that services have to be where those deaths are happening if it's going to have any impact. She also says that those previous sites, controversial as they were, actually helped the number of deaths go down. So what do you do instead? Is it just about letting people then die on the streets?
Of course not. I mean, this is my neighborhood too, and I see people suffering every day on the sidewalk, you know, dealing with addiction and mental health issues. Frankly, that was happening when the OPS was open, the last 3 sites. This is not about, I'm not disputing the fact that there's a need for an overdose prevention site in this area. My issue is twofold around the street disorder and lack of consultation that comes along with these sites, but also the fact that this needs to be more than just an OPS. This needs to be getting people direct access to treatment and recovery on demand.
No shit, Pete. But we need to start somewhere, and it's really sad that you come across like you're more concerned with the reality of the drug poisoning crisis annoying you, and you're afraid of a few homeless drug users for some bloody reason. The site has been moved 4 times, and at each location there was a decrease in death. So why do people want homeless people and drug users to die or not care? It's really messed up. Not all homeless drug users are crooks, abusers, and rapists. It's a very Trump-sounding thing to say. They're all junkies, they're thugs, they steal your pottery, garden gnomes, and yell in the streets. That wasn't Trump, that was more like a Soprano-type thing there, but I liked it, I dug it. These counselors say things about the situation and try to sound level-headed about it, but the fact stands. Ken Sim and any other politician or anyone else, in a party or not, on city council that oppose an OPS site have to be okay with a certain amount of death. They might not be a fan of the overall situation, yes, but the fact of the matter is you have to be okay with the small amount of death and people dying when you would take the approach like councillors Pete Meisner and others are doing. I would not go to my mechanic if I had a toothache, so why in the hell would I listen to anything a city councillor has to say about an OPS? There's no lack of consultation in this. The bureaucratic process has nothing to do with this public consultation. That's why we hire city staff to review and pass such simple and life-saving things. That's how it works. It's very rare. It's Vancouver loves to have these, like, I know it happens everywhere, but it really happens here. And I know it's rough for you, but living with the possibility of something happening possibly to you, it must be stressful. And I know it hasn't happened yet, and it might never happen, but boy, that might be rough for you. Imagine how it is for them, living every day facing life and mostly death. Maybe instead you could come together and suffer a little together and learn about each other. I mean, you're suffering if you're complaining about some loud noise and people using drugs. That suffering compared to death. So maybe your suffering, how hard it is, could come together with the people that fight death and maybe build a little community. We can't do that by pushing people from corner to corner and making them die in alleys. We need to stop, and we need to take a little shit, man, and we need to be uncomfortable. We need to take a breath and live in it for a second. I'm real sorry. But that's reality, and I know a little of your day was interrupted because of stigma, and irrational fear is more important than people dying. I'm sorry if a few people's problem interferes with your pretty little lives and perfect fucking day. People are dying. Heartless politicians, spewing bullshit opinions just allows more people to die. But it takes me back to the people who think that homeless people deserve to die, and that attitude is just bizarre and not okay. The argument is that the person put themselves in that position and chose to use drugs and be homeless, and that's just a big old turd. A lot of homelessness is because of systemic failures. Lots of studies show while homelessness can occur because of an individual or family circumstances, we cannot ignore the systemic failures. Homelessness occurs when society fails to identify and support people at risk of becoming unhoused, like most of us right now in this economy. Failures in areas like correctional services, healthcare services, and child welfare are very common. A society's failure to address racial inequalities, increase wages, and provide affordable housing also contributes to homelessness rates. Come on. I was without a home when I was 17 for a while. I remember the day my mom told me she lost her job and shit was going down. I can smell the room, I can see the light, I know the humidity, I know the temperature. That shit was traumatizing. And I sure as fuck did not make the choice. It's truly amazing how quickly it can just happen to people. And for the drug user issue, man, fucking get over it. In the words of Gil Scott-Heron, you keep saying kick it, quit it, quit it. But did you ever try? Have you ever tried to quit something like that? Quit coffee, try. With everyone peering into your soul that's surrounding you while you do it, and being weird while you try and get out of the warm and cozy hole you've been in, that's the thing that we forget and how powerful this is about drugs. They're fucking awesome. They feel fantastic. But they're a temporary solution to an overarching problem and are not always a good choice if that's why you're using drugs. Because we've been beat in the head for the last 60, 50 years with the war on drugs, and a lot of lies have been told and a lot of bullshit has been spewed at us. There's some stuff that we need to know about drugs. Here's Dr. Carl Hart and his TED Talk about how he began to change his thinking about the role of drugs in the poverty and crime cycle, which we're talking about here.
I first began questioning my thinking when I discovered that drugs like crack cocaine were not as addictive as we had been told. There is no drug in which the user uses one time and become addicted. In fact, 80 to 90% of the people who use illegal drugs are not addicts. They don't have a drug problem. I think I need to say that again. 80 to 90% of the people who use illegal drugs don't have a drug problem. Most are responsible members of our society. They are employed. They pay their taxes. They take care of their families. And in some cases, they even become president of the United States. All three of these men reported illegal drug use when they were younger. Now, the point here, my point is not to besmirch or tarnish the reputation of these men. They all serve their country. My point is this: their drug use did not result in an inevitable downward spiral leading to debauchery and addiction. And the experience of these men is the rule, not the exception. The overwhelming majority of drug users don't have a drug problem.
If people want drugs, they're gonna get them, legal or not. And we have already made everything illegal and hard to get, so that way obviously doesn't work. A friend of mine, we were talking about this just the other day, me and the homie Felipe. He's like, just get rid of all drugs, get rid of all the, well, we kind of do that already. You can't get drugs, it's illegal. So you have to get them illegally and make them illegal. You can't get rid of drugs. And you can't get rid of homeless people either, because at the rate that David Eby and most other governments are working to fix it, they're here for a while. And the poison drugs are going to flow and it will not stop. So let's fight death instead of each other. Here's Chief Medical Health Officer Patricia Daly on CBC. CBC's getting all my show here. Sorry, it's just, you got to tolerate it.
We think this is actually a better site than the previous two sites. It allows for both people to inject their substances indoors, but it has a very good area outdoors for people to inhale substances. And most people now who consume illegal drugs are inhaling their substances. Most people who die of overdose now are inhaling their substances. So this was important. The initial site on Seymour did not allow for inhalation. It was very small. The site on Howe did so, but it didn't have the indoor space. So we think actually this site, which is needed in this neighborhood because there are people in this neighborhood at very high risk of death, this will actually reduce the number of people consuming substances in public. We'll be able to allow them to stay indoors after their consumption to be observed. So we think this is the ideal location. It's right across the street on Hornby from the Vancouver Coastal Health Three Bridges Community Health Centre, which has primary care. We already offer a kiosk delivering harm reduction services right on that block, and we maintain street order on that street, and we will continue to do so. We put these services where the evidence tells us they're needed. So this particular neighborhood, Vancouver City Centre, has the second highest rate of overdose death in our region, one of the highest rates in the province. The area with the highest rate, of course, is the neighborhood at the downtown east side. Yeah. In this neighborhood, 94 citizens of Vancouver died last year. Now, that's actually a decrease over the previous couple of years. It was as high as 127, and we think the overdose prevention site helped contribute to that decrease. But we also know that these are people living in this neighborhood. People won't go far for these services, so we have to situate them where people live. We're under actually a ministerial order in the public health emergency created by the toxic drug crisis to offer these services wherever they're needed. They're definitely needed in this neighborhood.
Even if we get the proper support, CBC is fine, don't at me. For the recovery, 60% of people in rehab relapse. That's a common thing. It's a very high percentage of people that will use drugs during and after their recovery. Even if it's just once or twice, it could be a few times. But without a safe, clean supply of drugs, those people in rehab that will use again in their recovery are forced to use dirty drugs. So they will die if they relapse on the dirty-ass drugs with no clean drugs. Back to my original ramblings about 507 dead homeless people in 2024 and nobody caring. 2,253 people died from poison drugs in BC. If 507 of those people were experiencing homelessness, who are the rest of them? They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're construction workers, as we've heard, students and kids. Not people without homes and roofs over their heads and drug addicts. This isn't a drug addiction issue. This is affecting all of us. So let's stop the bodies from piling up, stop asking for so much and be willing to give a little more. Especially if the tens of people on Pete fucking Meisner heard from on the topic. Between him and his lying ABC counselor friends, it's a bit of a shady bunch here in Vancouver. Here's the story of Sim Shady and some of his ABC counselors. They like to tell lies, one doesn't live here, and Lenny Chu said something weird. Till the one day somehow they all got elected and left us all with our faces in a scrunch. That this group must somehow run the city. That's the way they all became the Shady Bunch. The Shady Bunch. The Shady Bunch. That's the way they all became the Shady Bunch.
You probably don't like me or ABC.
All right, this is fascinating. The Smell of Psychosis. Shout out to O on Blue Sky who told me about this. She's a person with schizophrenia and shares all the good and the gory details. It's an education. It's really fantastic. I really appreciate it. Lil Hurricane O is her username on Blue Sky. But she mentioned this, and I just wanted to look into it and talk about it because it's fascinating. Schizophrenia, first of all, it's super misunderstood. A lot of people can be shameful, feel shame in it, and because it's so misunderstood, and really just hide away. And I think that's the biggest problem. It'd be tough when you hear or see something, or how you communicate, or something happens, and it's not what the norm is, and the common reaction is, or are you fucking insane? You know, if I heard that all the time, I'd hide away too. It's not fair. So let's try and learn a little together. Here is TED Talks talking about schizophrenia.
Schizophrenia is considered a syndrome, which means it may encompass a number of related disorders that have similar symptoms but varying causes. Every person with schizophrenia has slightly different symptoms, and the first signs can be easy to miss. Subtle personality changes, irritability, or a gradual encroachment of unusual thoughts. Patients are usually diagnosed after the onset of psychosis, which typically occurs in the late teens or early 20s for men and the late 20s or early 30s for women. A first psychotic episode can feature delusions, hallucinations, and disordered speech and behavior. These are called positive symptoms, meaning they occur in people with schizophrenia but not in the general population. It's a common misperception that people with schizophrenia have multiple personalities, but these symptoms indicate a disruption of thought processes rather than the manifestation of another personality. Schizophrenia also has negative symptoms. These are qualities that are reduced in people with schizophrenia, such as motivation, expression of emotion, or speech. There are cognitive symptoms as well, like difficulty concentrating, remembering information, and making decisions. So what causes the onset of psychosis? There likely isn't one single cause, but a combination of genetic and environmental risk factors that contribute.
Now, you cannot have schizophrenia and wake up one day with symptoms. You can develop symptoms and wake up one day with them not as intense. When you have schizophrenia, you have auditory hallucinations as well as olfactory hallucinations. That's the old sniffer snooty. There are often negative smells that you hallucinate, smell hallucinations, like burning toast or things like that, like it's reactionary or scary. Phantom smells, they're called, or phantosmia. Here's Falquer Ent with some more on phantasmia.
Think of normal smell as all the different colors one can see, but when it comes to vision, the human eye really only has 3 different color receptors: red, blue, and green. Colors beyond these main 3 are due to mixing among the red, blue, and green photoreceptors. Similarly, the sense of smell is due to about 400 different olfactory receptors, quite a bit more than the 3 used in vision. A given smell perception is due to a specific combination of activated olfactory receptors, just like how a particular color perception is due to a specific combination of activated red, blue, and green photoreceptors. For example, a cookie smell may be perceived when olfactory receptors number 30, number 216, number 223, and number 373 are triggered. Not only that, but number 30 must be activated by about 25%, number 216 by 5%, while 223 and 373 are fully activated at 100%. Now imagine if some type of injury damages the olfactory nerves, whether traumatic, viral, or inflammatory. Anosmia occurs if all 400 olfactory nerves are completely non-functional and no smell signal is sent to the brain at all, whereas phantasmia is when some olfactory nerves activate when it should not have triggered in the first place.
You can also have phantom smells for things like perimenopause people, just so you know. But specifically people with schizophrenia have them. And there's also something else that has an odor, and I'm not trying to be rude, but the person with schizophrenia may have a unique musk, if you were. The National Institute of Health did a study called the Identification of Schizophrenic Patients by Examination of Body Odor using gas chromatography, mass spectrometry, and a bunch of gas. So there were some studies. There was a study back in 1962 by a doctor that showed the body odor of a patient affected by schizophrenia contains some specific compounds. This was studied, as I mentioned, by Dr. Eugene Buehler, who's a schizophrenia researcher and who I believe had it himself. Chemical sensor technology has proved to be able to classify different odors. The scientists investigated the possibility of using a chemical sensor array to detect body odor alteration in schizophrenic patients. So what they did was they took the sweat of subjects and they sampled it with a gas chromatography, mass spectrometer, a GCMS, blah, 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 blah. A total of 27 individuals were involved in the experiment, 9 schizophrenics, 9 with other mental disorders, and 9 controls. What happened was the analysis showed a richer composition for the sweat of schizophrenic patients. Nevertheless, the individuation of specific markers was unsuccessful. On the other hand, statistical analysis of cross-selective gas sensor data provided a complete classification of schizophrenic patients with respect to their other 3 groups. The conclusion, and it's fascinating, and there's a reason I'm talking about this too, not other than just the science. The alteration of body odor in schizophrenic patients was confirmed by the mass spectrometer and chemical sensors. Results show that the alteration is complex and cannot be limited to a single compound, but rather to a global variation of the body odor. So, part of why I wanted to share this is because people look at you like you kicked a cat when you have certain illnesses, especially head ones. And we forget there's a whole chemical dance going on, and not only in our heads, but our bodies, because the head is the chemical and the body is too. So I guess there's a lot of things that we can't control. So I guess what it is don't be a judgy bitch, because some people with certain mental illnesses like schizophrenia can have an odor, and if you're going to smell them and make loud, stupid jokes on the bus or something, well, fuck you. They can't control it. Have a little sympathy. Be more aware. Don't be judgy. I swear to Moses that when I'm in certain mental health states, my BO changes. And I hate it. And it's gross. It smells like someone else's body. And it's not me, and it freaks me out. And I'm like, oh, what's that stink? Oh, I stink so bad. Because it's the chemicals changing. It's really fascinating. So shout out to a Lil Hurricane O on Blue Sky for sharing that fascinating stuff.
So I told him to come on up.
Leave your shocking, true, and most real confession. 604-336-3896.
I promised that I wouldn't tell a soul, but if you really want to know...
Dial 604-336-3896 and leave your fascinating or even alarming innermost secrets.
I didn't think I'd have the nerve, but what could I say? I really like him.
That's 604-336-3896. Totally free. You don't have to pay anything unless you want to.
It's great beer. Theater near you. Check local listings. Rated 14 years, limited admission.
This is the living room, the Left Coast living room. We've been hanging out. We talked about some stuff. 2 shows ago, I said I was trying to get Karen Ward, and I am, and we've contacted each other, and it's going to happen. She just needs some time to get ready and prepare, because, you know, when you don't have a home, it's difficult to live day to day. So coming over here and me annoying you is difficult. So it's going to happen. But yeah, that's the show. Baba Booey, you can flip now.
Next to the Fraser Arms Hotel.